Just make sure that's going good. All right. So, with that in mind, I'd like to introduce today's speaker, Thomas Van Dyke. Thomas is a smooth, freestyling, multi talented musician and performing artist with deep roots in the blues, soul, R&B, smooth jazz, and Christian and gospel music genres, and a longtime member of Musician Indie Coalition. Now, as a member of MIC, he has brought a tremendous wealth of knowledge and experience to our program and community. Thomas is affiliated with BMI as a songwriter and is the owner of Another Approach Music, which is a record label, recording studio, and publishing company, BMI affiliate publishing company. Sorry, having a hard time reading today. But Thomas brings an extensive experience as an authorized booking agent in various professional entertainment and event booking agencies and companies, including Global Talent Booking Agency and Management Company, Celebrity Direct Entertainment. In addition to his music endeavors, though, he's also retired U.S. military veteran and martial arts instructor, and has worked in the insurance and financial services as both a professional and instructor. But most importantly, I consider Thomas to be a true friend and someone that really cares about helping musicians. When he first joined our program and community, I felt very lucky to have him because he brought an aspect to the community that I don't really feel like I brought, and experience and knowledge I just simply didn't have. So you're really fortunate to have the opportunity to learn from him today, and I encourage you to take advantage of it. So he's going to give a presentation that I already mentioned, and then after that we'll open up for the Q&A. Now I'm going to be quiet and let you listen to Thomas.
Well, thank you, Greg, and hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world today. I would like to say something before I start, though. I don't know everything. I know some things, though. And some things that I do know, I'm going to pass on to you. And I think the audience here is a mixture of very experienced people in the band land, and also maybe some novices. So whatever, category you fall into, hopefully I can shed some knowledge to you today that you can carry on with you. Now, what I would like for you to do is to have this available, which is paper and pencil. Because out of everything that I'm going to talk to you about today, I'm kind of positive that you're going to write at least 2 things down that you can use. So out of 50 things or 60 points of discussion, I think maybe you can find 2. If you can find more, then that's great. But let's start like this. Today, I'm going to talk about what I feel is some of the most important things when it comes to starting a band or just maintaining a band. And so we're going to talk about things like the tasks that's involved. We're going to talk about things that under what conditions you may be involved in when starting a band. Talk about branding. We're going to talk about actually acting on the idea, such as staffing your band, determining your best staffing resources, and also some of the physical and financial requirements that may be, looking at you straight ahead when you get ready to start a band. But one thing I would like to say is a lot of times when you're starting a band, you have to, first of all, look at the elementary. So are you a musician or singer? And if you are a musician, we'll say a musician slash singer, entertainer, there's certain things that a lot of people take for granted, and that is talent is all you need. And that's a lie. You need more than talent. You have to, if you're starting a band, you have to have the ability to do what I call leading from the front, but knowing how to lead from the rear also. Now, when you start a band and talking about talent, let's talk about, do you know your instrument if you're an instrumentalist? Do you actually know your instrument? Now, a lot of things I'm going to talk about here, you may say, that's elementary, but it's not. You'd be surprised how many people will start a band, but they don't really know their instrument enough to be able to start a band with people who are just as good or better than you. You know, the worst thing to do is for a person to come and join your band and they're much better than you. It's okay to have musicians that are better than you, but not much better because people will get bored and think that, hey, this is below me. I'm not going to start something with you. You have nothing to offer me. Now, during the time that I'm discussing a lot of things, if it's okay and if you can, Greg, if there's anyone that has a question and they raise their hand or they want to ask clarification of some point, can you unmute them at the same time? Okay, great, great. So if I'm talking about a discussion point and you have a question or you have a super comment, long as it's not long-winded, because I got a lot of stuff to cover. But if it's something that's really burning in your soul that you want me to touch a little bit deeper on, even though we're going to have Q&A at the end, questions and answers at the end. But if it's something that you feel you cannot wait until the end, raise your hand and Greg will unmute you and you go ahead and ask or make a statement. Is that fair? Okay. If so,
You can
like
you can
this.
also drop that in the chat and just put urgent in the
Yeah.
chat message.
Yeah. Yeah. And that'll probably be more efficient. Now, so now that also includes about if you're a singer, make sure that you have enough vocal technique that you can serve the band. Okay. A lot of times the front man or front woman is the one that carries the band. And if you're a vocalist, but you lack in vocal skills, then you may want to consider that, you know, objectively, okay, you may want to consider that you're not the person to be the lead vocalist. You can still lead the band, but not the lead vocalist. So you have to know your technique. It's the same way if you are a guitar player, you know, or a keyboardist, you know, if you're going to serve as the front person, then you need to know your instrument along with whatever other tasks that you're fronting. Am I making sense? Okay, this is all part of leading that band. Also, if you have no experience in leadership, period, then don't think about trying to start a band as a leader. Okay. You may want to find a partner that blesses your idea and maybe assign them as the leader. Okay. But you are in the background directing the leader. Okay. Because not everyone can lead. Leaders are not everyone. Okay. You may have a good idea, but you may not be able to be the person to actually lead the idea successfully. So you may want to look at that. Now, at the same time, and I know I'm jumping all over the place, but that's okay because that's what I do. I jump all over the place because things come to me and it says, now's the time to insert this. So that's what I'm going to do, and that's what you need to hang with. Now, when you are leading a band, there's a certain frame of brain that you want to have. And it is either democratic, okay? I'm not talking politics, I'm talking about way of leadership. You either want to lead the band as a democratic band or an authoritarian band. In other words, you allow so much input that actually the band makes the decision and not you, okay? But if you are the type of leader that you can be an authoritarian, in other words, keep your band, you know, going this way and not allowing it to go this way, then that's the type of leadership that you need to exhibit when from Jump Street. You never want to start a band democratic and then all of a sudden turn it into something that you are the person that's driving this train and don't ever forget it type of attitude, okay? Because that's the quickest way to lose your people from Jump Street. So, and you need to staff your band with people that will buy into your type of leadership. Okay. Now, when you staff a band, a lot of times people, when they're staffing their band with musicians, they're only thinking about um, the best drummer or the best guitar player or the best keyboard player. But then they're recruiting people that actually don't mix with their type of leadership, because you can get people into your band at a young phase of your band that will destroy your band before it even launches. Let me tell you one way it can, because you can recruit a thief. Now, I'm not talking about a person that is a thief that steals your equipment. I'm talking about a person that gets into your band that you recruited or you allowed them to enter into your band. And then what they do is start destroying your band from within by stealing your people for their own projects. And that is pretty famous. That's something that's common in the industry. People are thieves. They're personnel thieves. They'll destroy your entire organization, not just because they're haters of you, but it's because in their actual personality, they're the type of person that destroys organizations and starts something themselves. You feel me? Okay, so you got to be careful of that when you're starting a band early in advance. Now, we haven't even gotten to the portion about rehearsing yet because we're still in a selecting people phase. So, what are we talking about? You have to know your instrument, know your vocal abilities, so that way you can present yourself as a true blue professional that can handle your own weight. Then you want to recruit people that are lining up or aligning with your leadership style. Okay. If you don't, then you fail because you're going to get people in there that don't agree with your leadership style, and you can't afford that. Now, let's talk about original versus cover band, forming your original band versus your cover band. And we're still in the selection phase. If you have an idea of being an original band, in other words, I have all this original material and I want people that's going to play my original material in a band, then you need to let that be known from Jump Street. Okay. And you have to have enough original material for this band or people. Don't start a band with just one or two original songs if you're trying to be an original band. Have your entire EP or album ready to present to them, either an MP3 or WAV file or whatever, for them to start learning your songs to see if they even gel with your type of genre. Now, keep in mind, not everyone likes everything in a certain genre. Okay, just because a musician says, "Oh yeah, I like that type of music, Americana or country or whatever, whatever, whatever," but it doesn't mean that they like your original. So you have to again screen that individual and find out, determine, do I think that they're going to work with my material? Does it make sense? Your original material. And it's the same thing with your cover band. If you're going to start a cover band, you want to make sure that you first, um, be able to initially present to them a set list that is required for your cover band coverage. Make sure that they like those entire songs, because this is what you're going to start with. Remember, this is what you're going to start with. This is part of your plan. Okay. One of the most dangerous things to do is to have an idea of starting a band, having a set list, but yet the individuals that you're going to recruit for your band don't like 80% of your songs, because you're going to have problems right there already. Now, when you're starting your set list, when you're starting your band, you want to make sure that you don't put songs on it that you really cannot do to the fullest to represent and serve the song. You want to make sure that you have stuff on there that you already know. I got dogs here, so if you see dogs in the back, it's because I'm a dog animal. But you want to make sure that you can represent what you want and the direction that you want your band to go. You with me? That's on your set list. We're still in the forming band portion. Now, get the legal aspects of things done early in advance when you're starting your band. In other words, already have your agreements drawn up, because if you're going to start a band, don't half step it. Okay. You want to make sure that you present everything to this individual in a business format. You want to have an operations or an agreement statement already drawn up so that you can give people paper. This is what we want. But as you were, this is what I want. Okay. This is how it's going to go. This is how I see my band being set up. Can you buy into this? You remember, you are a salesman trying to sell your idea, and it has to be totally 100% agreeable, not 50% agreeable, because then you have a problem. 100%. This is your idea. This is what you are birthing. Okay. This is cover or original, but you want to make sure that you have all of your legalities down pat. Doesn't mean you have to get a lawyer to look it over, even though you want to make sure that you have legal entities available to you if you need them. You want to make sure that your documents are drawn up in a legal manner, that's point and blank. This is da 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 spelled out, so there's no misunderstandings. But you want to make sure you have all of this. Now, one of the failure um, aspects of a person starting a band is that they don't want to load people down with paper. They just want to have fun. They just want to play music. Okay. Well, if that's all you want to do is just play music, then you don't need any of this. You could play with anybody that you want to anytime for whatever reason. But if you want to make this a career or even a half a career, then you want to make sure that you have sufficient paper as far as what we used to call in the military an SOP, a standard operational procedures. Okay. Standard. In other words, we don't go left or right. We must make sure this is the standard operational procedures that we operate. And that's the same way you need to look at it as far as starting your band. Now, while you are doing this, you want to make sure that you visit and support other venues, other artists, and band events. And the reason behind that is because you want to, make yourself known that you're in the market, you're looking for people. You also want to look for people and physically touch and see and witness their aura, their spirit, to find out if this potentially is a person that you may want to try to recruit. And I'm going to use the word recruit because that's what you're doing. Okay. You're recruiting people for your band, for your business. You got to look at it like this is a business also. Okay. Now, you want to make sure that you visit and support others because that's what you want them to do also for you. Not everyone's going to be in your band, but you want to make sure that everybody knows that you see them, that you are part of the surroundings, okay? That you're available. You want to record also all or plenty of your rehearsals and events or activities. Make sure that is just something that you just do second nature. Every time you get together with somebody, you recording it or you taking photos of it. Because later on down the road, you can put a collage together. It may be something that you can use to show somebody or let somebody hear, because you can tell someone all the time, I'm trying to put together a band doing this type of thing or this type of thing. But the time that you show them, but versus letting them hear it, if you let them hear it, then hey, this is a better representation than trying to tell them out your own mouth. Okay. Are y'all with me so far? Any comments or questions or anything? All right. Now, okay, so we got our people together, and we got our people together because we did things certain, like we screened them. We use things like personality questionnaires. You know, we made a bullet list of what type of person we don't really want in our band. And we gauged all of our contact and communications with potential band members according to this type of questionnaire or this type of a profile. Okay. Yeah, I know I'm skipping over place, but this is something very important here. When you're looking for your band members and you're going online and you're looking at things like band mix, bandmate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you want to limit your potential people to people that there's no question in your mind, first of all, what type of instrument they play and or favor. Let me tell you why I say that. Because there's a lot of multi-talented instrumentalists out here, and they just want to be in a band regardless of what instrument they play. But they may not really want to play a bass guitar, even though they can, but that's the only thing that they can do to get in a band. Well, consider that person as potentially not even a um, future permanent place in your band. And the reason why I say that is because they may find another band that they can play drums in. And that's really what they want to do, play drums. But yet you allow them to come into your band playing bass guitar because that's what they want to do. So, so what happened? You have somebody in your band that's not going to be with you as soon as they find somewhere else to play the instrument that they want. So you have to make, we said, can you get that dog away from me? What dog? My dog? I don't get it. I don't get it.
Are you?
Is my dog scaring you? Okay, whatever. My dog's in my studio here. You're in your house, so shouldn't you? I'm afraid of dogs. Okay, well, don't look. Anyway, getting back to what are we talking about? So you want to make sure that you get the individual or allow the individual in your band that's going to be playing the instrument of choice that they really want to play. Okay? Don't just get someone and expect them to be permanent in your band that's playing an instrument that they don't really want to play. So it's not going to help you out at all. You want to also make sure that you remain independent for as long as possible. There's a lot of young bands. When I say young band, I mean they're not in the business for a long time. Young bands that really want management before they're even ready. A lot of young bands that really want someone that tells them that they can help them, and they're signing contracts and they're not even ready for it. So stay independent for as long as you possibly can. You want to also identify your musical goals really early in advance. What's your vision? What do you want? Do you want to do weddings only? Do you want to actually hit festivals? Do you want to build a band that can do studio projects, for instance? Okay, because you may not want to do live performance. You may want to just put a band together just to do studio tracks. Make sure that your goals align with the goals of the people that you're recruiting. If they want to go out and play live, but you want to do nothing but studio tracks, then what do you have? You got no band, really. So make sure that you are putting your goals out there in front because you have established goals. Something else that I want to talk to you about is you want to you want to define band roles and responsibilities whenever necessary. So if you have someone that's in your band that you've recruited and they're very good in doing social networking, they're very good at doing, typing up stuff or putting, posters out, utilize the talents of the people that are in your band so that they can feel at home. They can feel that they're actually contributing something to your dream. Does that make sense? So you don't want to hog everything. Learn to delegate, but also keep in your mind about what I told you before about thieves. You don't want to delegate so much that you lose control, actually, eventually, of your band. But you still want to utilize the talents of people that are in your band. Now, you got your band. It's time for rehearsal now, almost. Who's providing the equipment? Okay, if you're a real leader and you are trying to put the band together and you have nothing to offer except an idea, that doesn't put you in too much of a good spot. You want to have something to offer them, if possible, place to rehearse, or equipment such as a PA system, or have something, especially if you're an instrumentalist. If you're a guitar player and all you have is just a guitar and an amp, but you want to put together a band, you need to have a little bit more than that, especially if you want a singer, for instance, at least have a PA, something that your band can come through. And the more that you have that you can offer puts you in a better control situation of what's going on. Also, later on down the road, if you have sufficient equipment plus your place to rehearse for the band, you can earn more because you can get money for electricity, for utilities, for use of the PA system, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is common. Okay, it's common that if you do a gig, for instance, that person who owns the PA or most of the equipment still gets something for, allowing us to use the drums or the equipment or whatever if a person doesn't have it or desires not to always transport their stuff. Puts you in a better position. Make sense? These are things that you have to think about. Now, which brings me to the financial aspect of starting a band. Go into it with some money. Don't go into it with empty pockets. At least have $1,000 or $1,500 in the bank. And I put that figure out there because, if you have to pay somebody gas, for instance, and you really want this individual, but yet, you can't afford anything else except maybe gas money for rehearsals. That's only when you're serious about it, but have something in the bank at least. Have something in the bank that you can offer either gas money to someone if it comes up, if the situation comes around and say, hey, are you paying for rehearsals or what have you? And if you can do it, do it. But if you have nothing in the bank, then you have less to actually offer. Okay. I know some of these things that I'm telling you, a lot of people will say, well, blah, blah, blah. No, it's very important because if you really want to start a band, you have to be prepared and look at a lot of aspects of what it's going to take. It's more than just a guitar and an amp. Also, you have to remember the more you have, again, the more control you have, and the more you even image a leader. Okay? Does that make sense? Greg, did you want to say anything about any of that?
No, I mean, I think you're covering some really important points. I mean, the reality is when you're entering a band for the first time, whether you're the leader or just joining, you have to understand what the culture is, who's in charge, who gets to make decisions, and everyone needs to agree upon that. When that
Mhm.
doesn't happen, it causes a lot of problems. And
Exactly.
financially speaking, a lot of bands when they start out don't have a lot of money. There should be some sort of I don't want to say war chest, but something to draw from to cover expenses. And
Mhm.
if, especially if you want to get to the point where you are in charge and you know basically working with professional musicians, they're
Mhm.
going to need to get paid, and that could be very difficult when you're getting to starting out. So I think you're covering everything. Joe says, what's a reasonable gig profit expectation or goal for a classic rock cover band?
That's going to depend, first of all, your geographical area, because, supply and demand, um, if in your area, the average pay per man, it's not genre specific. Let me put that, I don't care if you're R&B or jazz or whatever. It's just whatever your geographical area is predominantly harvesting. So it's up to whatever your guys will accept. If they're going to accept $75 or $100, and that's your answer. If they won't accept any more, any less than, if they won't open their guitar case for less than $500 for a weekend gig, then that's what you got to pay them. So that's a question geographically dependent. Bulldog, what do you think about that? Isn't that true?
Yeah, I mean, by what I've heard too, it's
Hmm.
tough. I mean, the hardest thing in any business is negotiating your fees and price.
Hmm.
So I think it's a tough thing. Obviously, too, I think if you are like a tribute band, sometimes you can demand more money than just a basic cover band. And where you play matters. If you're going to a bar in New York City, they're going to undercut you beyond belief. You know,
Right.
places in the suburbs probably will pay more because they have less overhead and can afford to pay artists. So it really is a little bit all over the place with that.
Right.
But I would,
Exactly.
yeah, the main thing is to determine how long you're playing for, the number of people in the band, what everybody roughly wants to earn, and then add some
Right.
money to that to see if you can negotiate for that amount.
And again, you have to have something going on before you even attempt to recruit some of these people, because you have to be prepared also to answer the following questions on each recruitment, because it's going to come up. People are going to ask you, how many rehearsals are there? Are rehearsals paid? When are the gigs? And how much are the gigs? Those are questions that be surprised how many leaders of starting bands cannot really answer. So you have to be prepared to answer that, because anyone who's worth their weight in their instrument is going to want to know that anyway. I don't care how much they say, well, I just love doing this. In the back of their mind, they want to know how many rehearsals are there that I'm gonna have to attend each week. If you rehearse Mondays, every Monday, or every Monday and Thursday, or whatever, they want to know that. Are the rehearsals paid? How far do I have to go to get to your rehearsal? Okay. When are the gigs? Because if they're not wondering when the gigs are, their wife or husband may be wondering, well, what are you doing this for? I mean, or when are y'all playing? They're always asking, when are y'all going to play? When are y'all going to do something? When are you going to make some money? You're spending all this money on guitars and drums and da 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 da, but when is it going to pay out? Um, and then how much are the gigs? How much are you getting paid? So you have to be ready to answer those questions. And again, geographical area dependent, it just depends on what people are making. Now, also remember, these bands that are starting and they're paying for free, okay, or just for exposure and free never paid my utilities at home. How many rehearsals and length of time will a typical band need to excel? It depends on how talented and how much practice the person puts in at home. And then when y'all get to rehearse, y'all rehearse. If you spend every time you get together in practicing, because there's a difference between practicing and rehearsing. All right. You practice at home. If you spend a lot of time with each band member, you new band members, come in there and they just learning their parts at your rehearsal, then it's going to take you longer to get out there on a stage. Okay, so you have to recruit those type of individuals that understand that, hey, here's a set list. I need to practice my stuff at home, practice those licks so that when I get to rehearsal, all we got to do is put it together and gel. That's thinking professional also. Okay, so one rehearsal, it depends. Now, I'm gonna tell you, I have a pet peeve about people who say, just send me the set list and I'll meet you at the show. No, because you may come to the show and totally bomb out. Simply not because you don't know your part, but because you just don't have the attitude and the spirit to be amongst these band members because, people can tell out in the audience if your band doesn't get along. And it's easy when you're recruiting new people in your band to not get along. It's very easy and it doesn't take long to not get along with somebody in your band. And it could be really, really a failure for you, especially if you haven't met this person. So you need to have at least one band rehearsal a week, if possible. Okay, at least one. That way you can get to know your band members. You can get to feel them. You can hear and see and witness their spirit, and you know who you're playing. It's a family thing.
Yeah. Would you also say that? I mean, like, I've worked with top professionals and I've been in rehearsals where, like, top end musicians are getting together. They can run through a set list in one take because they know what they're doing. Um, with bands that are just starting out, would you feel like it would be more prudent to kind of like expect for longer rehearsals early on because everyone's kind of getting to know each other, and even I'm assuming too that length of set list would also impact how long the rehearsal have to be because if you're going to be playing a 3 hour set, it's going to take some time to
Mhm.
kind of put all that together.
Yeah. If let's put it like this. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. And I'm going to go a little further with that. Here we go. The more time a new band can spend together solidifies a lot because your set list, we're talking cover band here, not originals, but if a cover band has a set list, and you can agree on these are songs that are really commonly known, then it should not take too much effort or too long for a band to get it together because these are songs that mostly everybody knows. Okay, so it cuts down on it, but the more time you spend together, even when it comes to not playing, if you can actually afford to spend time together not playing. In other words, in the same room, maybe have just a meeting, just talk. Then it gets better. Am I making sense? So you don't have to spend all the time, playing, 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 playing. Spend time also in that band room, just talking, finding out about each other, getting inside each other's head. Because believe me, if you get into a person's spirit like that, then your band will be so much better because you click, not just musically, but spiritually, you click. And that maybe go over somebody's head, but like the more time you spend with your band member, the more it's going to click. Does that help, Greg? Because if everybody knows the songs anyway,
Yeah.
there are going to be some songs that it's going to be a little rough or trying to get through, because it's whatever. But
Right.
a band that's just starting, try not to pick those difficult songs. When a band is just starting, your mission is not to alienate people with difficult songs. Your
Right.
mission, your mission is to pick material that favors each person's abilities. Okay, don't pick something that takes a Van Halen guitar player for a person that he can't really travel like that. He can't do that, because you're gonna not only demotivate him, but you're gonna destroy your band. Okay? And remember, what goes around comes around.
Yeah. How to be sure to build the right positive spirit for yourself.
Hmm.
I'm not 100% sure the
Okay.
question there,
All right.
but
Let
yeah.
me see. Let me see if I can kind of unpack that. What I think. First of all, be honest with yourself. You have to be honest with yourself and determine honestly what are your weaknesses? What are your insecurities, first of all? And try to deal with that before you start dealing with other people. Because if you cannot deal with your own insecurities, especially in this industry, then you're not going to be able to deal with other people. You have to start figuring out what's wrong with me. Okay. What do I need to help this idea? What do I need to do? What do I need to tackle and defeat myself? Give you for instance, if you hate being around people or musicians that are overly talented and threaten you, then you're not going to be able to help anyone else because you're always going to try to surround yourself with people who are less than you, and you're never going to grow. So that means you're going to have to start working on insecurities about being around other people that are great. And especially in this industry, because everyone that you walk past in the industry can play something that will work circles around you. And if you're threatened to that point, then you're not going to be able to put together, first of all, an awesome band because you don't want anybody else that's an attention taker away from you. So one of the things that you need to work with on yourself is your insecurities. And sometimes it's hard to do. Sometimes you may find the best way to work out your insecurities in the music industry is to find ways to get surrounded by just what makes you insecure. Okay, so find ways to network with people that are, when I say bad, I mean like bad, bad. They so awesome that why would they want to play with you? You need to surround yourself with people like that and be a sponge. Don't be a hater, don't be a jealous person, but be a sponge around them. I'm not saying lick their boots. I'm just saying because if you don't um, become one with what your insecurity is, you're not going to make it. I hope that kind of like answers the question a little bit. I think the best thing to say is just get with your insecurities and okay,
Yeah.
actually deal with your insecurities. And that's the only way you're going to have a good band. You got to not be the best person in your band. You have to have people that are equivalent or just a little bit better. Okay. Not so bad that they like so you know, who are you? No, Okay, so let's move on a little bit. Um, I talked about putting value in yourself about having things like equipment or a place to rehearse. But at the same time, you want to make sure that you do not spend so much money on equipment and band luxuries that you won't make your money back. Just start out with just enough when you're starting your band. Start out with just enough equipment or resources to get you through that phase. Try to work phase by phase by phase. And that way, you're not overspending, you're not going into super debt. You're only dealing with and getting the things that you need to get you through that phase. Because you remember, as you build in this band, which is a business, you want to make sure that your profit is not so unreachable that it takes you 20 years because you went out and bought all of Sweetwater up. Okay. Sweetwater's a music store, just like Guitar Center and all that. So you don't want to do that. You want to just get enough that you need for right now. Because remember now, also, people that you recruit, they have equipment too. Okay. So you're not the only one that has equipment. So you don't have to provide equipment for everyone, but just the basics. just the basics. You already know that the average singer, front front man or front woman, the average singer does not have a PA. The average singer does not own a PA. Okay. So even if you don't sing, at least have yourself access to or purchase a PA. Okay. Drum sets, guitars, and all that kind of stuff is up to the responsibility of the person that plays it. If you got to come over my house and borrow my stuff, I don't need you. Okay. You need to have your own stuff, but a PA is something different. You want to have a PA. Plus, you can run your whole band through your PA if you have to, you know, front of house stuff and monitors and things like that. And that's your thing. Um, yeah,
Thomas, quick
yes,
question
sir.
from Cali.
Uh-huh.
Would a music shop or rehearsal rooms be a safe place to look for a band?
Yes, yes, definitely. And you want to hang out in the areas of the instrument sales area for the people that you're looking for. So in other words, if you're looking for a keyboard player, don't just hang over in the drum section, even though you can ask them, hey, do you know any keyboard players, whatever. But go over to the keyboard section and hang out there. Or if you're looking for a guitar player, there's plenty of them playing Stairway to Heaven and stuff like that out there. And, you know, you can find a guitar player there. Also, utilize the boards because people still hang flyers and put business cards up there, and put your name out on the bulletin boards I'm talking about. And I'm looking for this or I'm looking for that person within X miles of this area. Make sure you put where you are looking for the person at. Okay, don't just put your name and phone number. Just put 20 miles from downtown, etc. Let's see, what does that say? Is it still, what did that say?
Is it still late now to look for a band if it's in 20s or 30s?
You mean as far as
Oh,
age? When
I'm assuming age.
okay.
Um,
It depends because when you're starting a band, and you're 30 years old, for instance, but yet the genre of music that you're playing is people 50 years old, then you want someone that can play that or is interested in that music at that age. If you're looking for someone that's going to fit the look, as far as cosmetically for your idea, for your genre, then you want to hang around and get people of that age that look like that. So age is just a number because I know people my age that are playing punk rock with punk rockers. Okay. But it's just something, whatever you're looking for. Never let age, unless you're looking for something to fit the look. Don't let age be a block for you. Plus, you can learn from people of older or younger. Does that answer the question for you? Okay, okay. Um, Now remember, don't try to. It's really important. If you are doing a tribute band, make sure this is going to be funny, but people don't think about it. If you're doing a tribute band, make sure, if possible, to use tribute style equipment and dress. If you want to be a true tribute band, okay, don't sacrifice the look of the equipment because if you doing tribute band, but yet you're playing equipment that they didn't even have during that era, somebody with sharp eyes, especially in the industry, they're gonna say y'all sound good, but you don't have the look for real. Okay, think about it now. If you're doing a tribute band, say of the Beatles, then you don't want to have equipment, Marshall equipment that came out in 2018. You want to have Vox equipment, for instance. You know, Vox slant back, tilt back amplifiers and Herfner guitars. You want to make sure that your equipment looks like the tribute band. Now, if you're doing cover songs, there's a difference between tribute band and a cover song band. Okay. Tribute band actually pays tribute to an actual idea, an era related band slash idea. Cover band just does anything from here to there. They just playing covers. Okay. So make sure you look like it. Also, you want to make sure that you look like on stage what your website presents you as. Okay. For instance, excuse me, if you have on your website, you're wearing tuxedo on your website, and all your pictures present you as this, you know, Titanic type of look. But yet when they come see you on stage, you're in jeans and a polo shirt. That's not going to work. Okay, so be on stage what your presentation. We're still talking about the forming and getting it right part. You know, you want to don't destroy yourself from Jump Street. When you first start your band, don't start destroying yourself there. You want to establish yourself there. Okay, so and branding. This is part of the branding aspect. All right, so look the part on stage, what you are presenting in your social networking. You want to make sure, and this is getting to the part of selecting the band members. I know I'm hopping around, but it's all relative. You want to make sure that your individuals that you're putting in your band, if they're dysfunctional type of characters, make sure that you're experienced enough that you can work through dysfunction. Okay, now watch this. Every person that you put into your band may be surviving daily with medical assistance and psychological assistance, and you don't know it until they have a bad day. And they're at your practice, or that now they're at your show and they're having a bad day. You have to be such type of leader that you recognize this episode and can function and make things work even though it's dysfunctional happening in your band. Now I'm just going to be quiet just for a second and let that soak in. Okay, you have to be able to work through dysfunctionalism yourself as the leader. Because if you cannot identify an episode that your guitar player is having right now, or your drummer, and if you can't work through that, can we send them a psychology bill? No. If you can't work through that, then this may not be the game for you. And you cannot tell that's going to happen until it happens. Because during your screening process and your personality checklist and all this other kind of stuff, you went through, everything was squared away. And everything was hunky-dory. But then on Thursday night, when you had band rehearsal, and then the guitar player or whatever comes in and they're tripping, and you can't really deal with it because you're not able to work through dysfunctionalism, you're going to have a problem. Do you think it's wasteful information and I'm telling you about that? No, because this is part of starting a band and or maintaining a band. If you don't want to deal with it, then stay a solo artist. Okay? Next thing I want to talk to you about is start using phrases that edifies people in your band. Make people feel good in your band publicly in front of everybody else in your band. But if they're screwing up and it's not an emergency, don't address it in front of everybody in your band. Pull them to the side or help them load their equipment up at, every night, when you finish, people load the equipment up and then just mention to them, hey, is everything all right? Or ask questions such as, how do you think things are going? Okay. And that's not a target question that you ask someone. That's something that's getting them to talk by asking them questions like that. How do you think things are going? And watch your tone and your attitude as you talk to them, as you ask them that. Some people are so discernible that they can tell where you're coming from before you even talk to them. Not just by the words you say, but how you say it. Okay, so wait to the right time and pick the right words. Y'all with me? Okay, so you want to identify that person's positives more so than negatives. And I like to say you want to put something in someone's account. You want to deposit in them more so than take away from them. Okay, that's the mark of a good leader. A good leader will instill deposits into their people more than the negatives. Okay. Hey, that was a great job you did. Or man, you really, or girl, you really tore that one up. I can tell you've been rehearsing, but you're not bull crapping them. You're just utilizing truth. Okay. It's not playing a game, but it's working into people. They will stay with you longer because you praise them and it makes them do better. You want to also conduct re-evaluations from time to time of the people that you've recruited in your band. And this is part of the maintenance part, making sure that things continue to go well. Do re-evaluations of them, but you do them in private. How do you do re-evaluations? You start to phrase out again. How do you think things are going? And they say, well, what do you mean? Well, how do you think things are going in the band? Are you still enjoying it? Are you having any problems? Is there anything that I can help you with or address, or is there anything else that I can do for you? That's reevaluation, the same way as it is in evaluating. So you're using the same technique to do reevaluations. You're not calling them into your office with your paper and you're writing down checklists, and because they know, well, what's up with this? I mean, we're closer than this. We're supposed to be family. So you do things, on the low, what we call about on the low. Talk to them on the low and say, hey, look, what's going on? And then you wait for them to respond, and then you address. I've been noticing that in that song, that we practice, that we rehearse together. Every time we get to that part right there, is there anything we need to do to help you key in on this is what you need to be doing, or are you trying something else? You have some other idea about it, because they don't know that they're messing up. They don't know that they're forgetting the change or the bridge or the accent. So you find ways to work with them, especially if you like them. But if you're trying to get rid of them, then that's still the phase that you use, the reevaluation phase. So the same phrases that you're using for evaluating, reevaluating, or terminating is the same thing. How you think things are going, right? Because you want to get the person off of defense, first of all, before you say anything, especially in the termination phase. And we can talk about that in a part two, how to get rid of people that are not working in your band or organization the best way. because you know I got experience in that too because I've had to deal with that a lot. Now, I mentioned about the more time you spend with your new band, the better it gets. You know, the tighter y'all get. I can't say that enough because you have to spend time with them at lunch or dinner or whatever. Remember, these are the people, and I say it quite often, and some of you have heard me say this before. If this is the type of person in my band that I would not invite to my dinner table or to be around my family, then really, for real, I don't need them in my band either. Because remember, we're going to be traveling on tours or we're going to be playing in the bars or whatever. And I have to know that this is the person that has my back. You have to be able to be trusted. Okay. If I won't invite you or introduce you to my family or have you at my house, then I don't think we need to be in a band. And if so, if you're in my band, it's probably only temporarily until I get someone else. Because there are times that you may have to hire someone else, you know, to be in your band until you can get someone else to replace them, especially if you have gigs that are coming up right now. And the only thing holding you back from getting that gig is the bass player. But yet the bass player, you can't find one. So you have to hire someone. And that person may not be the type of person that you would invite to your home, but you may need to. So there are exceptions to every policy. Make sense? There are times that you may have to, you know, go back on your word. Um, and another thing, and we talked about this before, don't try to convert your democratically run band into that dictatorship run band because during this phase right now that you're in, you already got your band and you already found out the people that are problem people or the people that you've had to have that reevaluation phrase said to, you know, you've already, you know, started seeing people's side of them that you didn't know about. Do I turn this now into a dictatorship type of band? Hey, this is not going to work anymore. Y'all must be here 15 minutes early than rehearsal. Don't come dragging in here 30 minutes or telling me you're on your way and you're not here. And all of us are here except you. You're holding up everything. If you do that, then you're out. Okay? Or it's okay. We don't have anything to do except we'll just hang out until you get here because we don't mind waiting on you. You have to let them know where you stand on certain things like promptness, certain things like learn your part before you get here because you're wasting our time. Certain things like answer the phone when I call you. Certain things like text me if you can. I'm not saying text me within 15 minutes, but you better text me back so I can let everyone else know what's going on. You have to be a dictator on certain things. You can be democratic on certain other things. You draw your line from Jump Street. In other words, where you are, and be consistent with it. Don't be flippy. You know, one day or one week you're this way, or one, you know, or you're this way with this person, but not with this person, or whatever. You know, people see that. It's just like my dogs. My dogs, they know who the alpha is, and they know who can get away with what for how long. And it's the same thing with band members. Band members know who can get away with what and when, and they start noticing it. Well, why you let so and so do this, but yet I do it one time and then you get on me. What's the deal? You know, people realize that and recognize that. So what time is it now? It's 2:42. So we've been going for a little bit. Greg, do you have anything you want to echo? I think I'm about
Yeah.
finished for this segment right here, and we can
Yeah.
move on to the next phase. I hope I contributed something, some ideas. I hope you got 2 out of 50.
Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot, I thought. And yeah, no, I mean, do you want to break there and we can do a part
Yeah.
two? All right.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Okay. So we'll break there and we'll do a part two. First, I want to start by thanking Thomas, for taking the time out of his schedule to put that together. It's a lot of information, but everything you said I thought was extraordinarily valuable on so many different levels, especially when it comes to the whole relationship building aspect of managing artists and people with inside your band, and the fact that there can be poison pills with inside that demographic or inside your culture if you don't address it. And I've seen it happen multiple times. When I'm working with the band, the first thing they want to talk about is how to fix the problems going on, because they never set up a band agreement in place in advance to kind of dictate how things would run, or who was paying for what, or whose responsibilities were going on, or one person felt like they were doing all the work and no one. So it's, you covered, I think, vital things that help get bands off the ground. I'm not going to drone on here because I feel like you covered a lot, but I do want to continue with questions if people have additional ones. I think there was something that one of John's questions we missed. Yeah, we did miss one. So John earlier said niche audiences and bands seem to be the most consistent. How do you create or find a following?
Mhm. Yeah, niche audiences. If you're doing cover band or if you're doing tribute band, then you want to target those individuals that like that type of music. For instance, tribute. If you're doing something from the Kinks or Jefferson Airplane or something, that's definitely that type of audience, then you want to build your audience from those type of people that listen to that type of music. Same thing with your cover stuff. You pick an era, you pick a genre, and you start canvassing those sites that harvest those type of people. Same way like you would do the Spotify audience. Same way that you would do when you developing playlists.
Yeah.
Is that good?
You got a thumbs up. Sounds good. And Kara said this was great information, and I enjoyed the way that you delivered it too. Yeah, it's good when you kind of have just the talking conversation. I'm always doing PowerPoints just because I don't want to miss anything and I'm going to forget otherwise. But it's good when you can organize all that information and deliver it in a concise way like the way you.
And something else I want to add, from being a booking agent and dealing with a lot of different type of groups, you'll find all of these problems a lot of times within groups that you book, and they exist simply because they were not addressed early in the game. And they can't break up now, because if they break up, then that's income, but they're not happy together. There's a lot of bands out here that just look like they're jolly but there's a lot of things that's going on inside that band as far as dynamics that could have been solved in the reevaluation phase.
Yeah,
You
I like
know?
the evaluation thing. That's not something I've had conversations with people about, and I think it is important. You brought me back to when I was like running a department in like a label, and I had to do that stuff on a regular basis. Not only evaluating what they were doing that was good or negative, but also making sure to note what they were doing right on a consistent basis to keep them in a positive mindset and making them move forward. And that is a crucial role. Joe asked how to connect with an audience during a performance. Also, too, I had everyone on mute during the presentation, but we can absolutely take people off mute if you want to talk. If not, it's completely fine. If you do, just raise your hand and say, "Yeah, I want to talk," and I'll take you off mute. But how do you connect with an
Yeah.
audience?
If you're doing a live event, um, you can take lessons from DJs. Okay. And I know a lot of people don't want DJs at their live band events because, hey, live music, not DJ. But you notice a DJ, as they're spinning their sound, what are they doing? They're communicating with the audience, they're talking to the audience. And a lot of times it's relative to like the music that they're playing. So you have to do the same thing. When you're up there, you want to touch base with the audience, not all the time, okay? Because people do what? They pay to come here, you play. But you cannot just stand up there and be just a player. You have to communicate with them and compliment them as an audience, okay? Never negative them. Don't talk down to them. You talk to them and with them and respond to some of the comments that you may hear them saying. When they say, hey, that's good. Thank you. That goes a long way. And then tell a story, for instance, about how that song came about or what made you put that on your playlist, what it meant to you. Okay. That's how you communicate, because remember, people will care and relate to you about how you made them feel. And what is your mission as an entertainer? Make people feel something. When your band is put together, this is the part I want to cover also. You want to make sure that your band's purpose is related to what you want to make the audience do. If you want to make the audience be just dancing all the time, then your set list, your playlist, and your comments and your communications is geared towards keeping them on the dance floor. Keeping them on the dance floor, motivating them to dance, dance, dance. Your material and everything. This is how you relate to the audience. This is how you contact them. You get into them. You make them do through your playlist what you want the audience to do. And your audience will be formed like that because you'll be known to be a make me dance type of band. If you're a concert, if you want people just to sit there and listen, then that's the type of audience you want to generate. So to answer your question, how do you communicate with people? How do you how do you relate to the people? It depends on what you, as your band, what your mission is. What do you want them to do? Do you want them to just sit there and listen to you? Then develop your playlist to nothing but the type of music that they have to sit there and just watch you. But if you want them to dance and be active and da 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 da, then that's what your playlist is doing. Be careful not to mix your playlist so much that you are seesawing. Seesawing deals with people's emotions. You don't want them to seesaw unless it's on purpose. You seesaw them at the end on another direction. But that's part 3. That's dealing with something else.
Yeah.
We can talk about that later.
Joe, you should be able to mute yourself if you want to like chime in now. There you go.
Hi, Thomas. Wow, that was astounding. This was like total pro level. Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, just a thought. I don't know what you're looking for, career wise or whatever, but there's a lot of people in corporations who play music, and I bet they would be, basically profitable to talk to them, because all this stuff applies to leading any group of people, and I think they would really relate to it.
Okay, well, thank you, Joe.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Okay, one last thing to close this out and everything, because I know everybody has something to do. Always keep in your mind when you're recruiting these individuals, you are a salesperson. You're trying to get people to buy into you. Then your idea. Okay? If they can't buy into you, they're not even wanting to look at your idea because they don't like you. All right? Next thing you have to remember is people are busy being busy. Doesn't mean that they're doing anything positive, but they're just busy being busy. Money talks and something else walks. Thank you, Greg.
Yeah, I don't think that's a perfect punctuation mark. All right. Well, thanks you, Thomas, again for taking the time. We're definitely gonna schedule a part two to this because I feel like we were just kind of scratching the surface of your knowledge in this area. And again, I was already learning a lot. But thank you again so much for taking the time. Everybody else, thank you for attending today. I dropped our links in the chat again. Please feel free to connect with us online, and on social media, and check out Thomas and his music. Great performer on top of everything else of being a wealth of knowledge. So again, thank you so much. Stay tuned. He and I will be definitely talking about doing a part two to this because it seems like it was really popular and I'm learning stuff, which is always, a rare thing for me these days. So I appreciate everything that you said. So remember, next month we'll be meeting again on the second Tuesday. I believe it's March 10th, and we're going to be talking about how to grow a diehard fan base. But thank you so much for everyone again for taking the time, and to Thomas for sharing his information, knowledge, and putting together an amazing presentation today.
Thank you, y'all. Have a great week. And I'll
Enjoy your
talk
day,
to y'all
guys.
soon.